Hello, my name's Erika Neisner and I'm from the British Journal of General Practice. I'm a web editor there and I was asked to speak about the Open Citations Initiative and talk about our experience of joining I4oc. So today I'm going to talk about our experience of joining, and since being asked to do this presentation I've done some investigation into how these open citations are being used in practice. It's very preliminary research, and you'll see that the results have revealed a few surprising things which we'll look at in a moment. First of all, I4oc, that's an I. A bit of background to it. So currently citation data are not open access. All other metadata are that are deposited with Crossref. And I4oc, the Initiative for Open Citations, is an initiative to make citation data fully open. And activation is via Crossref, although the two organisations are independent of each other. What is I4oc? Here we have the definition from their website, which is it's a collaboration between scholarly publishers, researchers and other interested parties to promote the unrestricted availability of scholarly citation data. Which raises the question, what does unrestricted availability of scholarly citation data mean? Put simply, it means open access for article references, and I4oc explains this as promoting availability of citations that are structured, meaning machine readable, separable in that they can be accessed or analysed without having to source the original journal or book, and open, so freely accessible and reusable. Talking about the different parties and processes here, so first of all, Crossref stores the citation data. I4oc opens access to these citations, and APIs and apps process and display the data. I've looked into, in finding out a bit more, I've looked at different apps and APIs, otherwise known as just resources and services that use the data, and come up with a short list. I'm sure there are more of them. There's Open Citations, there's the REST API, VS Viewer and Dimensions, and I've got an example there from their website. Now, in terms of our joining I4oc, I'll tell you a bit about our journal and why we joined. So the British Journal of General Practice is an editorially independent journal of the RCGP. We were first published in 1953 and we launched our open access journal BJGP Open in 2017. At the end of 2017, we heard about I4oc and asked HighWire about that and decided to join, and that happened early this year. The reasons why we participated is we have worked with Crossref for a really long time, and they're a trusted provider, so we felt a certain level of confidence in working with them on opening our citations. We also aim for transparency in what we're doing, so in terms of an initiative that opens up our citations, we thought that would be a good idea. And we've also got a history of opening up our content and working with different providers. And there's a list of some of our partners there. Now, this is very much from our experience of joining, but there are other reasons to participate, which I've found out more about since looking into this. So it seems that I4oc may extend the reach of citation data, and in turn this could increase the discoverability of the content associated with those citations. Now, there are questions there about the mechanisms of the discovery, which I'd be interested to hear if anyone has answers to that, but there is this possibility. And another reason to participate may be that citation data are made freely available in a currently closed system. Not all major publishers have opened up access. I've listed a few there. Many major publishers have. And again, we can talk about the different pros and cons of opening up citations in a moment. I4oc on its website lists the participating publishers, so you can have a look there on their site and see who is currently participating. So I4oc, I've been in contact. They've explained that at launch, uptake was very low. Now citations are open, 50% of them are open. I think the initiative was first discussed in 2016. So this is fairly recent, and so the uptake has been quite rapid. And from I4oc's perspective, their goal is for all citations to be open access. Now, this is our experience of participating in I4oc, and these will be on the slides so you can access them if that's something that you're interested in investigating. First of all, as mentioned, access happens via Crossref. So publishers need to check that they're registered with the Cited By service with Crossref. And if they are, all they need to do is send an email to Crossref and provide a few details. So their ISSNs, specify the DOI prefixes that they want their open citations turned on to, and from our perspective, we wanted all of our past and future content made open access. So we received a confirmation email. This is the one we received, explaining that that our citations would now be available through all Crossref APIs and services. And yes, so Crossref metadata consumers could all access our citations, and other services could aggregate the data, such as APIs. So, as mentioned, this is something that this is the process we went through. We turned on our open citations. It's been running in the background since early this year. And when we were asked to talk about this today, I started looking into, okay, well, what's actually going on here and how does it work? How does it render on these, how do we actually view these open citations and how are they used? So what we found was, and there are various reasons which I'll explain in a moment, but where there were big discrepancies in citations being shown. And that is something that we're all aware of, happens currently, that different providers do different citation counts depending on which journals they're collating. But this was our findings. So on the left is one of our journal pages, Lost to the NHS research. We had a count of 16 citations Web of Science, 27 for Scopus, and 34 on Google Scholar. Now, for other HighWire publishers who have this facility in their info tab of articles, you'll see that Google Scholar does not give the actual, it's quite small there, but Google Scholar doesn't actually give a number next to it, and apparently that's because they don't have an API to render that, but it's something that when you click through to the link, you can count the references. So On the BJGP article example, we saw big differences to start off with. But on the right, and at the top of the right, we see that was verified on Web of Science, there's 16 counts. But for one of these APIs, the Open Citations API, we only had one citation, which rang the alarm bells, and then I started emailing people and saying, what's going on here? Why is this discrepancy so large? And got various explanations for it. So the first was that each indexer has different criteria for journals they include in their counts. Open Citations is yet to aggregate all of the Open Citations data. There's another explanation. But the one that seems more significant for us, the British Journal of General Practice, is that by doing this investigation, we found out that there was a gap in the deposits of BJGP references. So, currently the process, as we know it, is that we deliver our content to our XML provider, and some of that content goes to HighWire, some of it goes directly to resources and services. We don't know exactly where this gap has happened, but it's something that we're closing now. But this could explain why the discrepancy is so large. Here's an example of one that is more likely to have complete data. It's from the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences on postnatal development of dinosaurs and birds. And yeah, you can see the numbers there are closer together, but there's still a discrepancy in what they're finding in terms of citation counts, 5, 6, 9, and 10. And you'll notice there that cross-ref is listed there as well. In this investigation, we found out that there was a gap in terms of cross-ref rendering on our HighWire site, and HighWire is working to fix that with cross-ref, which is fantastic. So here are some general questions. Can open citations help to standardise citation data and resolve these discrepancies? I asked several people and I got an answer. I think this was, sorry, I can't remember exactly who I got this answer from, but one person explained, no, not necessarily. The reasonable discrepancies are often because the services are counting different citations. So that's something that we can talk about in a moment as well, and open up for questions and answers. Another question raised is, what do open citation data look like in an API? What happens to them once we open them up? And what we did was we contacted one of these API providers, VOS Viewer, and they had a look at our data and they provided us with something for us to look at. Now, this is what we found, and to be honest, I'm not sure how to read this. So we have some recognisable authors' names in there, and we're told that the links between the authors represent references that they have in common. I'm sure there are, so many different applications of citation data. This is just one example to give you an idea of how this may be used. Okay, here are some questions that I'd like answers to as well. So what are the practical applications of these data? Which interfaces are most user-friendly to see how open citations work in practice? And what are the benefits to individual publishers, authors, and funders? And are the benefits only realised collectively? Which leads on to the next point in terms of I4oc's goal of 100% of citations being open, is how dependent is the scheme on full participation for accuracy? And final question I have is what are the limits and extent of applicability, for example, in relation to the impact factor and citation counts there? I'll come back to this slide in a moment. So yes, we've had help from a lot of people, Mark Patterson from eLife, Jennifer Lynn from Crossref, Ludo from VS Viewers, Silvio Peroni from Open Citations, and John Sack, thank you very much. There are FAQs on the I4oc website, and there's a blog post which is a breakdown, really simplifies some of the issues, which is really helpful, and the link will be on the slides. All right, thank you very much. I'll open up to questions, and I think John's coming up.
We'll have time for some, you've got a great list of questions there. Why don't we keep that list of questions up rather than switching to Slido. And if questions come in on Slido, I'll monitor for that here. And if someone from Crossref could join me up on the stage, can take questions. Are there questions from the audience, or is this a good set? This seems like a great set of questions. Questions in the room? All right. Well, I will try and answer these, and you'll help. I appreciate it.
Sure. Happy to, yeah.
All right. Practical applications of the data. Primarily, I think the practical applications are going to be embedded in tools. That is, you won't go and look in the Open Citations database, but tool builders like Dimensions, like VOSviewer, will use this data to build out their tools and essentially to get a larger set of citations. My feeling is that the more citations that are counted, the better. Authors love that. That's why if you ask any author where do they go to look for their citation counts, they will almost universally tell you they'll go to Google Scholar because the number is twice as large as it is in Web of Science. So authors will appreciate open citation data.
Yeah, so I'm from Crossref. We have a lot of metadata registered with us from 10,000 publishers, and about a third of those publishers are also including their reference data with their articles. And what that means is that we can use them for the service cited by that Erika talked about. It also means that for those publishers that have decided to open their references, all of the users of our APIs can use that. So that some examples were the VOSviewer, Open Citations is one. So this metadata is available. The phrase we use is for reuse without restriction. So it's not even got a CC0 license because we consider them to be facts, and facts can't be licensed. So we also have, I guess, probably about 100 organizations, tools and services that will be very familiar to everybody using our APIs in a more dedicated way, and HighWire would be one of those. Library discovery databases, Scopus and Web of Science themselves actually take this citation data and augment with their own. So really the opportunities are for the whole community to use this metadata and apply lots of different meaning to infer all sorts of trends about citation data. And yes, metrics is definitely one of them, but it could be the sort of connections and trends that was visualized by the VOSviewer as well. Do you want to go ahead now?
Yeah.
Are you going to answer your own question?
Well, I've got a new question which relates to the second one. Mm-hmm. Can you envisage an addition to that list on the HighWire pages where you've got Web of Science, Scopus, Crossref, Google. An open citations count being included there?
No. And the reason for that is it's logical rather than philosophical. Open citations, if you are a publisher participating in Crossref's cited by count, which means you deposit your references so that you can display citations to your work, then the Crossref information will be the same or larger than open citations. In other words, there'll be no citations shown via Crossref cited by that aren't open citations. I'm sorry, there will be no citations that won't be shown that would be available via open citations. So open citations will be a smaller number typically than Crossref cited by references. So I don't think it would provide the user with any new information.
Yeah, because one of the things that actually with the cited by service from Crossref is that it includes not just the counts of the open citations, but actually what we call the sort of limited level ones, which means they're not freely available through our APIs, but members can get those counts from each other. So publishers can use that data to display counts from each other within the 10,000 publishers. And maybe it's worth clarifying that. So I guess people know who Crossref are. I4oc is essentially a campaign, an advocacy campaign to try to convince publishers to open their citations and change their policy with Crossref. So it is separate from Crossref, but they themselves don't hold any data. They just have a very similar name to one of the users of that data, which is called Open Citations.
Let's see. So how dependent is the scheme on full participation for accuracy? I think my answer to this depends on what you mean by accuracy. I think one of the things that Erika's presentation pointed out is that everybody who counts citations comes up with a different number. Generally, Google Scholar is the largest for reasons I could go into in a conversation if you'd like, but they count more sources than anybody else. For example, foreign language dissertations gets counted in Google Scholar. So since each of the services has a different number, there's a question, what does accuracy mean? And if the point is counting the most citations, then any participation probably adds some to the information that's available through the other services. So if you will, if there's a theoretical maximum where accuracy is counting all of the citations, open citations probably helps get there. But it isn't going to necessarily count things that Crossref itself doesn't index, of course, because you have to be in Crossref to deposit the citations. I think there are probably some publishers who will opt out or not opt in to open citations for quite a while because they have business enterprises where citations are part of the business value of their enterprise. So these are publishers that run secondary indexing services like Scopus in Elsevier. So I think that we won't get to full participation in quite a while.
Yeah, and you can see, as Erika showed, there's a list of participating publishers on the I4oc website, and those are a list of the, larger ones that have drawn attention and that they've been alerted to. But there are, I think, 1,700 publishers who have now opened their citations, and that list is generated from our API on our website, so I would say that's probably a more up-to-date list, and that's also including we did actually change the default setting for new members joining since we changed the policy last year. So any new publishers that have joined Crossref this year, which is about 800 and something, they are open by default, and the reason for that is they're generally open access journals. They generally have assumed that any metadata they're putting into Crossref will be available through our APIs. But anybody who is a member of Crossref and joined 2017 and further back, they have to let us know if they want to open it. Right now, the limited for them is the default for them is limited, so available to other publishers within the Cited-by service, but not available through open APIs, and available therefore to I4oc and their tools like Open Citations.
On Erika's last question about impact factor calculations, to a certain extent, the journal impact factor is like a trademark of Clarivate, and it is, they determine what the calculation is. That's why a number of people complain about lack of transparency. They determine what's in the numerator, they determine what's in the denominator. So I don't see open citations being used in impact factor calculations, except perhaps if you want to argue with Clarivate about your impact factor. So maybe it does have a use. Do you have any comment on that?
I think that we've always taken the position that we're certainly not the authority to decide impact or make any kind of claims or statements about citation trends. We want to make it available so that other tools like Open Citations and all sorts of other publisher tools can develop those. And certainly with citation data from Crossref, there are lots of article level metrics that people are looking at now, and it's not something that Crossref is too close to, that whole impact factor discussion, but certainly aware of it.
Good for you. I wanted to, in closing, clarify something that one of the things that gets confusing in this conversation is the difference between citations and references. And I found that almost all conversations use those words to mean the same thing, and that is what gets you into trouble understanding this. What you deposit is the references in your articles. What you want to display on your website is the citations to your articles. And what Crossref has put together with the Cited by service and with Open Citations is essentially a way for you to deposit references and, if you will, withdraw citations. But unlike a bank, it's not your own references that you're pulling out. You're pulling the citations that others have made to your articles. So in order to enable this via HighWire, as Erika said, you have to sign the Crossref agreement, which is very easy to do. You can even do it online. You'll typically get a response in a day. You have to agree to make your references open if you wish. Cited by does not require open references. That's an option. Then you must tell HighWire to deposit your references. And there is a small fee for doing that. And then optionally, you can request that HighWire display your citations. That is, display the citations to your articles on your website. That's not a requirement of Cited by, but it is an option. So you sign the Crossref agreement. There's no cost to do that. You tell HighWire to deposit your references, and then optionally you can tell HighWire to display the citations. I hope that's clear. Any questions from the audience on this? All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Erika.